OBS. Get it up here. Start recording. Get my notes. Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance. This is Weekly Scrap number 74. Tonight's guest is Shane Bentley. He has been a firefighter in the state of Georgia since 2004. For the last few years, he has been with Cornelia Fire Department, where he is currently an assistant fire chief. He has been instructing firefighter classes since 2010, and over the past couple of years has worked on this idea called the Bearers of the Oath, which he officially kicked off last year in 2020. Shane Bentley, it is my pleasure to have you on as today the guest of Weekly Scrap number 74. Welcome, brother.
Man, thank you very much. It's an honor. It really is an honor to be here with you tonight, man. I appreciate you very much for having me. Thank you.
Awesome, man. I'm going to jump right off into it and get right into Bearers of the Oath, if you're good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. Talk to me about Bearers of the Oath. Where did it start? Where did it come from? Go.
All right. So it, like I said, just a second ago, I really kind of made its headway last year. Kind of made it live last year, you could say, but actually it's really been in existence for the last 3 to 4 years. What a lot of people don't realize about it is the code of honor that's on the back of the shirts that you see is there's 23 line items there, and every one of them is a personal struggle of mine. Wow. And so I've taken in I had it listed down several years ago as I really started trying to turn the page for myself in my career. I got wrapped up a pretty good bit, and with that I started taking notes about myself. And when I did, I finally I had enough self-reflection to realize where I was really struggling. And the original code of honor is 23 line items, but it's totally different wording than what it is there that you see today.
Okay.
And so like I said, every one of them is a personal struggle. But what I did is when I started talking to my friends and mentors about it, it was one of those things to where, I said, man, it's pretty cool. What would people think about it? And so you have to be really vulnerable to put that out there about yourself. So what I did is I ripped the way it ended up and the way everybody sees it today with the code of honor is, I really done it for a very personal, selfish reason. I knew if I put it on the back of the shirt the way it is now, or put it out for the internet or everybody in the fire service to see, that every time somebody had that shirt on and they turned around, it would be that punch in the gut and that accountability factor that I needed every day to remind me where I came from and where I'm at today and how fortunate I am to be where I'm at. And majority of the time it's extremely humbling, right? Just because there's so many, you see it in a lot of places now, and that's but there's days that like yesterday morning, we got on shift, we had a little bit of an issue that we was talking about, and it made me start thinking about myself. How was I handling it properly? And it was one of those things where I seen the back of that sweatshirt hanging in my locker, and I realized, hey man, I'm not living up to that right now. And so, like I said, majority of the time it's the most humbling feeling you can get, but that every now and then it smacks you right in the face.
No, so, accountability sounds awesome when you see it and it holds you to it. That's powerful.
Yeah, it's I honestly would have never imagined that it would turn into what it has. I never had that intention. I had a previous officer, captain at the time, lieutenant, then a captain, and he's assistant chief now where I came from. I used to watch him every night. He was always the last one down on shift every night. He was the last one to go to bed. And I've always been one that goes to bed late too, but I always watched him and noticed him, seen it for years. He kept a journal every night, and he'd be in the locker room, and he would some nights he would write down just a few lines about the day. Some days it was multiple pages, and I started doing the same thing.
Nice.
And I remember asking him what all are you writing down, and he just he had a distinct laugh, and so I started writing things down, and I kept these little notes and notepads and things, and it's really humbling when you go back and look at them. You watch if you spend a lot of time with the same people on shift for many years, you watch the good, bad, and ugly, and it's just that family, that aspect of the family. You see it all, and man, I watched not only myself and seeing what was happening with myself, but also seeing what was happening with other people.
Right.
So it was a lot of mentors give me the confidence to be able to do that. And like I said, this is not the intention of it. When I started out, I actually done it for a selfish reason. So I would see it all the time and it would remind me, hey, because, you especially being an officer in the fire service or not being an officer, you still should be accountable for what you do every day. So, and I never wanted to take in, I didn't want to have that letdown factor again, like I had in previous years.
Nice. Now you intrigue me because one thing I've always wished I would have done was kept a journal from the time I, hired on. And I wish even now I would be more consistent. I try to keep a journal. Sometimes when I go to it, I look at my last entry and it was a couple months ago and I kick myself and I'm like, got to be more consistent in this. How long have you been doing the journal and how consistent have you been in it?
I've done it for a while. I've done it on and off for a handful of, years, just on and off. I was never consistently doing it all the time like I should. And then about the time I got real consistent with it, it was right before I changed departments, and I would take and I would write something down every day. And then when I came up here to where I'm at now, and for some stupid reason, I just quit doing it. And here lately, I've started doing it again at night before I lay down and go to bed. And, just looking back and reflecting over the last few months on it, it's brought some things to light that going back and looking at it, thinking more about it today than I did 2 or 3 months ago per se. I got a different perspective on it, and it kind of helps me look at things a different way versus in sometimes always in that heat of the moment or in acting with emotion.
Sure. No, I wish I could impress upon young guys, young rookie classes. In fact, I'm going to probably start making it a thing, but just tell them, man, start a journal when you first hire on. If nothing else, your kids and grandkids will love looking at it years from now when you're gone. You know what I'm saying? And seeing what was going on in your brain and not to mention how beneficial it would be to yourself, just looking at what your growth over the years. Okay, I'm going to catch you up on some comments here. We've got from Jeremy Mathis saying, love the hoodie. I then posted a link to the Bearers of the Oath honor code if anybody wants to see that because we're going to talk about it quite a bit here. Robert Ramirez said, Shane Bentley, passion and brotherhood personified. Congrats, looking good, my brother.
Thank you.
Steve Alverson, I appreciate what you stand for, Shane. Timothy McGo says, the stash is gone. Dang, Shane. Jacob Johnson says, Shane Bentley has as much passion as anyone I have met. Nothing but good things coming his way. Glad he is on the podcast. And Devin Craig said, we got to get it right. Who the fook is that guy? Somebody called the cops. There's a mustache thief on the loose.
I know, man. My wife, she was giving me hell about that earlier. She said, you don't look the same. And so I don't know, every now and then I'll take and shave it off and go incognito and grow it right back. So
right on,
I don't know why I did that. So, but man, every one of those guys, man, I can't, friends and mentors, man, that's what I say, man. I'm just the luckiest guy to be able to get to take and be a part of what I get to be a part of, not to mention in the fire service. It's the best job in the world. So I couldn't imagine doing anything else or wanting to do anything else. But having friends like that, every one of those guys, whether I met them one time or several times, it's humbling, man. Very, very fortunate. Very, very privileged.
That's awesome, man. You could not say it better than that. Greatest job on earth. All right. Moving on to my next question for you. I want to talk about, you have now, the Bears of the Oath has the conference number 2 is on the way in March, correct?
That's correct. March 11th to 14th.
How was it putting that together? What'd you learn? Lessons learned, obstacles you overcome? If someone wanted to put together a conference, what's your advice to them type deal?
Oh man, it is kind of I ain't gonna say it's a struggle because I got so many good friends and so many people that's part of it that make it, it's to be truly and honest, it has been pretty easy. It's the call, you put it out there and the call is everybody comes and everybody helps and they just, it's Jacob Johnson, you mentioned him a minute ago, is battalion chief in Katy, Texas. He humbled me big time several times over the last couple months, but he took in, I got to talking to him one day, invited him to come to the conference, and he that's a big privilege. That was a privilege for me and for him to come join us. And he took and I didn't find out till a couple weeks later that that was his son's spring break, and he canceled his son's spring break. And him and his wife and his son is coming out here to Georgia for the week to be with us for the conference. And he's going to do his mentoring the young class and hang out with us, all week. And the logistics of it, when you got that many people, it's kind of it's a challenge. But you got the type of every one of those guys you just named off, man, they're going to be there.
Right on.
There's where they're coming from Florida, Kentucky, Ohio, Texas. They come in flocks and they come to help us every time we do it. So we this time it's 4 days.
Oh, wow.
We had to add a day. We got a lot of really good classes going on over 2 different sites. So, but I would encourage people to do this. Everybody, there's a lot of different things, a lot of great training going on in the fire service today, a lot of different cadres and groups. But I would highly encourage anybody to do this if it can benefit the fire service. You can't do it for it's just my opinion. You can't do it for personal gratification.
Right.
You got to do it for the fire service, and you got to create. My thing is, you got to create an opportunity for people to come somewhere and learn, and not let the old-fashioned stigmatism of the fire service prevent them from coming because they're afraid of what they don't know and how they're going to look, or somebody's going to rough them up.
Sure.
So you got to create that environment to where they want to come, and you got to give them a place to come to where they can take and fail to be successful and not be chastised for it. So I would highly advise people to do this. I think it needs more. There's too many good guys out there, firefighters and fire service members, girls. Don't matter. There's too many good people out there wanting to do this and got these ideas. And man, I would highly advise anybody to take and if it'd benefit their department and the fire service, to absolutely do it.
Oh, and the social media and the internet has made it to where you can get the word out about how much great training. Not only that, but you can vet how good the instructors are and know that you're getting quality training, man. It's amazing what conferences like the Bears of the Oath and the Revolutionary Fire Tactics Lake, and of course what Isaacson's got going down in Florida and FD Tactics, and I shouldn't even start naming things because I'll leave so many out. But there's so many good ones, man. It's just amazing, and so absolutely, brother. It's awesome. Awesome what you're doing. The first
one we done last October, we took in, I think we ended up with 171 students, 3 days. We threw it together in a month.
Wow.
We originally talked about doing it in August, and then the COVID thing hit. We kind of backed off, and then we got down to Pensacola for Water on the Fire, and we left there and said, you know what, we're going to do it.
Nice.
And literally 30 days, we were able to pull it together, and it was, so the reward for me is when you leave there and guys call you or text you a few days later and they say that you helped rejuvenate their fire service career. The biggest one was, you made me a better husband and father. That made my eyes wet. So it was, and then there's absolutely no way it would happen without the guys that have make it what it is. Then the guys, the instructors, we try to treat all the students just like we want to be treated. That's kind of one of the reasons I've done this years ago. Kind of went out on my own doing things, was I wanted to provide those level of classes and that instruction that I felt like I deserved. And let's just face it, man, you're not going to bust your ass and give me all you got, whether it's on shift or in training or at a conference, if you don't genuinely know I give a shit about you. It's just the truth.
100%.
And that's what a lot of what we lack in the fire service today. It's okay to care about each other. So, but again, I'm just a small part of it. All these guys and gals that keep coming back every time to make it happen and bringing these classes to it, man, you say something about it and all these guys just come out of the woodwork, man. And it's the most humbling feeling in the world.
That's awesome. Now you got 4 days coming up in March. So you got, is it 2 days lectures, 2 days hot? Is it all mixed up? What kind of schedule are you looking at?
So we got 2 lecture classes. Chief Johnson's coming to do his mentoring the young. Jason Leska is going to do his foundational leadership, and the other 8 classes are all hot classes.
Okay.
So the Thursday and Friday, the first Thursday and Friday of class, we'll have at one site we'll have Build Your Culture, Sean Duffy and Pablo Jenner.
Nice.
And Captain Arthur Ashley will be working side by side with them with his truck class. We'll flip it the next day. Whoever was in the truck class on the first day will go to the search, and whoever was in the search will go to, we call it Uncle Don's truck class. That was that was one of those things that came up in Ohio last year. First time we'd all got together, and it's like we've been working together for years.
Right on. Uncle Don's truck class.
Yeah, Uncle Don's truck class, and that's got its own story, but you just have to come and find out about it. But,
okay.
And then we got the sister site. We got Nick Peppard doing his tactical engine class. We got flashover classes. Then Saturday and Sunday we'll have Herbie Tyler and Rob Ramirez with National Rescue Consultants doing advanced rescue.
Oh yeah.
Saturday and Sunday. So we've got a little bit of everything. Jeremy Mathis with Fast. He'll be doing saving their own class. Man, we got.
Dude, that's a banger of a lineup, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. We got guys with the fire and rescue, Jarrett Jenkins and Jeff Adamek doing the Comaltro making space. We got some really cool classes going on. Then we got one of our original classes that we actually started doing several years ago. It's called the Oathful Can. It's a can class. It's a can thermal imaging class. Really emphasizes hitting that. Sorry, automatic lights.
You got a clapper?
Yeah, that's what it is. But it really emphasizes hitting how important a water can be and starting and prioritizing the search.
No, that's awesome.
So we got a little bit of everything. Most of the classes that we have done over the years have been hot classes. Everything's just live fire. We use live victims. A lot of times, I know a lot of people say it's taboo, but we try to create the most realistic scenarios and classes that we absolutely can. And the only way to do that is with the absolute best, most passionate fire instructors you can put with them.
That's
and
awesome.
So it's a star-studded lineup, man. These guys, man. I can't say enough about them ever.
No doubt.
So,
I gotta respond to a couple of these comments, just because dude, you start talking about it, dude. That is amazing. LJ Guy said it best right here. He said, "Dang, I've never heard of Shane Bentley until this scrap, but just from listening to him, the fire service needs more just like him. This cat is humble and wants the best for everyone in this craft. Solid, man."
Thank you, man.
Tony Nunez said, "You don't know what you don't know until you know what you don't know, what you didn't know."
That's
and
right.
These conferences make that more true every time, dude. That is perfectly said, Tony.
Well said.
Joey Hez says, "We are seeing an influx in the micro conference or local conferences, I like to call it, but it's best when those who teach at the smaller ones are students of the larger conferences, and most importantly, give credit to those you learned from, even if you teach a different version."
That's right.
Yeah, he said this was not directed at you, Shane. Keep killing it, brother, with the fist bump.
No, man, I couldn't agree with you more. That's one thing I will say about myself and all the guys that I get to pal around with. We spend as much time training and attending other classes as we do holding classes, and you have to remain a student in the game.
Gotta get my notepad's in the wrong spot here, so I got to keep taking notes. Get my pen. Got to have my G2.
There you go.
So I want to get into the Bears of the Oath Honor Code of Honor.
All right.
I put earlier if you guys want to scroll up, in fact, I'll probably just repost it right here. If anybody wants to see it, this is just a link to a picture of it. But get my notes back up here. Here we go. Now I'm going to read through the whole thing. Okay. So it starts with save lives, protect property. Right. Pretty simple starting, you know what I'm saying? And I'm going to let you talk about where this all came from. I'm going to read through it first, let you talk about where it came from, why you wrote it, and then I want to pick apart certain parts of it and talk to you about it. We can rabbit hole, and of course, any questions or comments from the audience, I would welcome them. So it says, save lives, protect property. Then it's be nice to our customers, be nice to each other. Search every job, search every time. Train till you do not get it wrong. Train because your family deserves it. Train because your company would want you rescuing their family. Train because it's your job. Job equals work. Work builds character. Do not make your company look bad. Leave it better than you found it. Help each other be right, not wrong. Respect your crew. Respect your company. Respect every job as if it were personal loss. Be loyal. Show empathy. Be vulnerable. Do not show your vulnerability to everyone. Honor your oath you signed up for. Honor your oath you signed up for. Good enough is never good. Do not bitch. Do not walk past a problem you can fix. Do not become a part of the problem. Simply fix it. Become the standard, not the minimum standard. Screw what they think and do your job. So there it is, man. I hope I didn't butcher it too bad. Here's my notes on it.
Oh man, that's every time. I mean, you know, that's part of it. Every time I hear somebody read it off, it really takes, and it gives me chills sometimes because, like I said, the original version is not that wording. I took in when I decided to take and put a trademark name with it and that traditional handshake that they don't even teach fire service history like they should anymore, man. And a lot of the, especially at my department, we're very young. I'm the old guy. And so they didn't even know what the crossed hands were from the insurance markers. And man, to me, that's important. And I struggled for months looking for the right logo.
Right.
And in my old office, I had a bunch of insurance markers lining the header of the ceiling. And I was sitting there one night and I was like, man, what am I going to call this? And I just looked up one night and there it was. And I went, son of a bitch, there it is.
I love that, man.
Yeah. And it hit me and I was so excited. I didn't even sleep that night. And then I took and kind of formatted it and put it in. But the original version of what you just read was not that wording. Like I said, I took and I changed it to fire service terminology because I knew, like I said, I'd done it for a selfish reason. And I knew that people would want to take and they would wear it and I would see it and it would hold me accountable. But the Save Lives, Protect Property is simple. It's my wife and my kids and my family. I say it all the time. I'm a victim of the fire service too. And it's by my own decision because I put the fire service in front of my family and my wife and my kids so many times and consciously knew it and that, and didn't involve them like I should because I was, I thought I was doing the right thing every time because I was making myself better but to be honest with you, my priorities were wrong. And there's several of those, man. There's a lot of Brunacini in there. I had the privilege of getting to know Chief Bruno very well. Just lucky, and to be nice to our customers. That came straight from him at
Right.
FDIC in 2016. We sitting in one of the little side delis one day, and we were sitting there and we was talking about some things and just exchanging things. And anyhow, but every one of them is a personal failure that at some point in time I was lacking. And I took each one of the original statements and just put this terminology with it. So it'd be more relatable. But when I see it, I see that, but I see the original version of it every time. And that's the vulnerable part of it was I was so selfish at times that I was not being vulnerable. And in disguising my vulnerability was holding me back from actually being who I am today. And once I started realizing and seeing, the passion was there. I had the passion. It's just how I was going about doing it was jeopardizing other things. And I hadn't always been this way. I've always been a passionate, I've always loved the job and I've always been excited about the job and loved the job, but it was meeting certain mentors that actually give me that opportunity to take and feel comfortable being who I am about the fire service.
Right.
And I think that's common for a lot of guys, a lot of people in the fire service, because, I said it earlier, the stigmatism of the fire service, man, we're still doing it to each other. It's Pablo Jenner says it best, man, we're selling ourselves bullshit. And the thing is he's and something else he says, you can't fake passion. And,
yes.
The thing is with that but people are afraid to get out of that comfort zone, their circle, because they're afraid of what other people think. And, I got arrogant enough to take and stand up and say, we're not going to do this. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it this way. And we're going to take and welcome everybody. We're going to extend our hand to them when they slip and fall. we're going to take and extend our hand to them and, you know, give them that opportunity. But it all goes back to doing the right thing and caring about each other. And that has nothing to do with the fire service.
Nice.
So, yeah, there's man, the training thing is, I was very fortunate. When I started in the fire service, my first captain, man, that day I walked in, you know, I was looking at him, I was like, damn, who's this guy?
Right.
You know, he's looking at me like, who's this guy?
Right.
And, you know, and it was an honor. Like last week, we've been going through some promotional process here at work, and to have him come in and sit down on the interview board and interview people that's applying for a lieutenant's position here were guys that were actually at this department with me. And when I came up here to where I'm at now, they followed me and came. And for him to actually come up here and sit on that promotional, that was, you know, that was big for me, because he's always meant a lot to me, and we went through a lot together. But leaving him and the fire department that I started with, I didn't leave that city. I left my family. And that was, you know, I almost didn't make that decision because I was so loyal. I didn't want to leave them. But at the same time, you know, it was the humbleness that came with it, that they supported me when I left. You know, it was, and they still do to this day. So it's, I mean, I probably, I know there's a lot of people that say it, but I'm probably the luckiest son of a bitch in the fire service.
Man, I love that, man. I love that. That's awesome, man. Just that attitude, man. When you can hear it in your voice when you say it. So I'm going to bring some stuff at you here, and then we'll get back to the code of honor. Jacob Johnson said, I consider him to be a leader on the job like Chief Ranwalt, Chief Isaacson, Captain Ashley, and many more. You will be seeing him for a long time.
Thank you, sir.
Devin Craig said, we need more people like him. We need more leaders and less officers. Matt Sparky Powell said, I agree. Fire service history needs to be brought back. It's part of where we come from and who we are. I feel like we need to honor those who came before us and paved the way for those that come after us.
Yeah, I can't agree anymore.
Right here, Steve Tammy Alverson said, it's all about leadership. There we go. And Devin Craig said, laugh out loud, arrogant, right. You are doing the right thing, and that's never arrogant.
Man, you talked about Steve Alverson. You mentioned him twice. Very good friend, a mentor. He's a retired chief in the Greenville, South Carolina area. Been a good friend of mine for 4 or 5 years. He's part of Bears of the Oath. He comes down and supports us and helps us. Retired chief and still taking classes, still teaching classes. Man, these guys that you're naming off, man, they're friends and mentors, and I don't want to disappoint them. And that's part of that accountability is, you know, it's some days are a struggle for everybody, but you know what, knowing that I have friends like I do, you know, I don't want to disappoint them. So it's, sometimes it's, you have to sit and reflect. I think everybody needs, self-reflection. I told the guys that here at the department I work at, man, they're very young, but they're very trusting, and they've taken and allowed me to take and be their leader and trust me. And, you know, I would never want to disappoint them, but I tell them all the time, look, man, when you get up in the morning, your feet hit the ground, you got 5 to 6, 7 minutes in the bathroom with the door shut, brushing your teeth. If you can't brush your teeth and look in the mirror and be proud of what you're doing and say that you're doing something a little bit better to make things better for everybody every day, and pat yourself on the back just like that. And that's okay as long as the door's closed. When you open that door, it becomes about everybody else at that point in time. Nice. And so, but you got to have that little bit of time to take in when you're brushing your teeth, because if you can't look at yourself in the mirror, you have to self-reflect, and we all have to self-reflect. So, it's those, I don't ever want to let nobody down. And, you know, I was talking to one of the guys that worked here a while ago, and he, I am arrogant at times, and it's not by, you know, out of just rudeness. It's just, there's a certain expectation that I feel is expected out of me, and I expect out of everybody else. And, you know, he said, well, we're not ever going to be perfect. I said, absolutely not. I said, but what we will be is profession at chasing perfection. And I said, that's not, you know, that's nice. Everybody says that, but we have to take, and he said, well, how do you know if you're doing a good job? I said, well, I'll tell you like this. I said, I don't like being second to nothing. And I said, if I'm going to follow and trust somebody, they better lead me. And I said, if they're not going to lead me, I said, I'm probably going to be that guy that takes and goes and starts looking for something or somebody else, or go to them and be honest with them and say, hey, are we doing the right thing here? And I think that's what a lot of the fire service, I know it is, lacks, is that being able to go to each other and say, hey, man, we suck. We absolutely suck right now. What do we got to do to get better? What's going on in life that's preventing us from being the best when somebody needs us at any time of the day? Ooh. And but the reality of it is it happens every day for everybody. And we got 4 rules at this fire department. And a little side note is the 4 rules are that you show up to work on time, which is early. My early is a little bit different than everybody else's. I'm here 2 hours early, but you show up to work on time, and that's early. You're going to eat together, pray together, you're going to train together, and you're going to do chores together. If you can abide by those 4 rules, you'll never get into any kind of SOGs or SOPs. And I never realized how effective that was till last week when we was doing those interviews. The human resources manager, she was asking them, are you familiar with SOP on this or SOP on that? And all of them, we videoed them so we could go back and watch it. And all of their answers was, no, ma'am, I'm not. But what they didn't realize is they knew every SOP because we hold ourselves to such a standard. And she took and told me at the end of it when they were done, because we didn't sit in on the interviews. We had other people sit in on them to be fair and, to be biased, not to be biased towards anybody. But she said, they all said no. She said, but I commend you because they knew the answers. They just didn't know that that's what's in the blue book.
Right on. The culture was there.
Yeah. And so I was, that was one of those things where, I really made me feel good because, but it all goes back to trust, man.
100%, dude. You cannot say it better. Dude, I could listen to that. Dude, I love the fact of close the door, brush your teeth, get out of your system. And when you open that door, it's all about them, dude. I love that. Okay, I'm going to read you some more from Scott Lawson. Said, Shane, got to be a good guy to let Captain Ashley help him. Great words. Thank you from the capital world of Bourbon, Kentucky. We got Lee Humphrey. Shane also loved to get his leg rubbed. So there might be a story there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Robert Ramirez says, this is Shane Bentley 24/7, 365, whether it's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday or 2 a.m. on a Saturday. This is how every single conversation I have ever had with him goes. Sean Duffy's chiming in. Accountability breeds responsibility. My man Shane spitting the facts. Sean and Shane on point. Excuse me. You're not disappointing anyone, bro, from Basil Ibrahim. You lead by example. You lead from the front while having your guys back. Be proud and keep going. It's contagious.
Thank you, guys.
Matt Ruark said, you are the one person I can go to, job or not job related, and I know there's going to be no BS. So, man, you got a lot of people definitely who are advocating the authenticity of what you're saying. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's man, sometimes I feel like thank you is not enough because these guys are always so pure and supportive. And I'm like I said, I'm extremely lucky, very humble.
I can say, I've done a lot of these scraps now, and I can say that there is a lot of support for you. So that is a thing that is not always apparent with every guest. And I'm not singling anybody out or anything like that. I'm just saying that is an unusual thing. So be proud of it. I love this. The code of honor. I love it. It's a creed that if anybody lived up to those 23 things that are in it, I think they would be so respected and so far ahead of the game. You know what I'm saying? If they could live up to all 23. Now, what I want to ask you is, are there certain ones that you struggle with personally or that you wish you were better at?
Yeah, all of them. And I don't mean to take a cheap way out, but there are, I struggle. I do still struggle with several of them. But I do. My wife is probably the one person that humbles me more than anybody at times, and never walk past a problem that you can't fix. And that's not just not taking the trash out. That's making sure you're addressing the issues. And when your wife tells you that, and when she's telling me that, that means I'm not giving the attention to something at home that I should be. And I would be, a fool to tell you that sometimes it didn't rub me the wrong way or piss me off. But you know what? As who better would you want not hear it from than the ones that the closest, the ones that love you the most, the ones that's closest to you? Because if I can't take it from them or any of these guys that just, that's complimenting, I'm a fake, and I don't want to disappoint nobody.
Right on, right on. Moving on. You are obviously a very passionate firefighter. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Have you always been that way, or is this a evolution of you, or have you all? I mean, just kind of your personal story.
Well, yes and no. When I started volunteering, and when I started volunteering, it was one of those things where I just fell in love with it. You know, I'm one of those guys that I have to learn hands-on, and I want to know why. Right then, I don't like the fact that not knowing, because if I don't understand it, then that means I can't do it. And so I really fell in love with the job. I thought at that point, but then when I went to work as a paid firefighter, I really started learning. I was fortunate enough to get to ride backwards and as a firefighter for several years. And I learned more about the job. That being the low man on shift, I'll be honest with you, that is, a lot of people say, what's the best job in the fire service? Well, that is it. To me, that is it. You earn your way. And I took, when I was the low man on shift and I was the backseat guy, that I learned quick the expectations that I had, that was expected out of me. But I also learned that I didn't like doing things traditionally. I didn't like always doing things just because I was the low man. I always tried to do it better. Okay. And whether I always tried to put my own twist on it or not, and it wasn't always received that well. It took a while, and my mouth has always been pretty big. So a lot of times I didn't know when to keep my mouth shut.
Right.
I had a lot of really good ass chewings and ass kickings behind closed doors, and guys that took in that kind of like, I was referred to one time as that pain in the ass you needed, and the potential that they gave me if I didn't. I'm glad I realized it, several years in, because if I would have missed that boat, I might not be where I'm at now. But there's no way that I would be here without these guys. And so I rode I thought I was doing really well. And then after advancing a little bit and going into taking classes in the fire service, I was really disappointed. I needed to know why and how. And I felt like a lot of times that I didn't get that. And I always watch people say, the question was asked, does anybody have any questions? And everybody's looking around and then nobody's saying nothing. I'm like, yeah, I do. And then I started realizing people aren't comfortable asking questions.
Mm-hmm. They don't want to show their ignorance. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
they're afraid. And because, we've generally done well at beating the shit out of each other all the time. And so I realized then, I said, man, I'm going to go learn how to do this, and I'm going to start doing it my way, and I'm going to start taking and creating. I didn't realize it was a culture at that time, but I'm going to start doing something different, and I want to take and provide what I wanted. And doing that was, you had to take and get people to trust you, and you had to give a shit about them and care about them. And I didn't feel like that I could ask anything out of anybody till they trusted me. And so we go above and beyond to making sure. And that was just as simple as changing somebody's morning when they walked in and asking about their family, getting their mind off being nervous because they're coming to training. But if you know somebody's name, and they got kids, or if you catch them off guard like that, then they look at you, and then they feel like they are somebody, because they're just not a student then. Right. And so I learned that you had to take in, to get people's attention and to get what you wanted out of them, you had to get to know them, but you couldn't do it. You had to manipulate them, is what you had to do. You had to manipulate them for a positive outcome. But in the word, everybody hears the word manipulation.
I love that. I love where you're going. Yes.
Everybody thinks manipulation. Oh shit, that's terrible. Well, unless you put for a positive outcome right behind it, it changes. And so I got really good at trying to manipulate people to get them to realize that they were capable of doing a lot more than they thought they were. And so by doing that, it just kind of, I got really, I got geared up and kind of evolutionized myself, I guess, to where I'm at today. And then I didn't realize for a long time what was happening. And then I realized that just a few years ago, I said, man, the guy told me one time on a rec call on an MVA, he said, y'all going back to join, y'all going back to the cult? And that's a buddy of mine. He said it to him. And I was like, man, no. I said, this is the thing. I said, do you know where the word cult comes from? And he said, what do you mean? I said, you're welcome to come join at any time. I said, cult's affiliated with culture. And,
Nice.
Just little things like that. And, but now, there was a time where I was extremely arrogant about it. But now I really try to make sure that you got to learn people's traits and their habits, especially when they're in a class setting. Nobody wants to sit on the front row. So I always sat on the front row in the middle every time. And I felt like if I was any further back from that, I was going to miss something. So, and just encouraging people that it's okay and to take and step outside their circle. And until they do that, well, once they do that one time, all they got to do it is one time outside their circle. They do that shit one time, and then they do something that they think they couldn't do, or they expect themselves to do. Then they start building that. They feel good about themselves, and they start building confidence. And you got to tell them too. You got to tell them, look, man, good job. I'm proud of you. And then you just almost lit a fire.
Oh yeah. It's a positive upward spiral, man. And they do it to someone else.
Manipulation.
Yeah. There it is, that positive manipulation. No, and most people think of manipulation. You think of it, it's to get stuff out of for your own end. You know what I'm saying? But what you're talking about is, the positive side of manipulation. It's great, man. Solid. Yeah. Now, Ryan King said it. Positive manipulation, solid advice. Robert Ortega chiming in said, "My man Shane, get some."
Thank you, man. Good guy.
Tony again coming in and saying, "There's no better way to better yourself than being better than yourself." That's a great way of stating it, man. Every day, a little bit better.
It is. Man, I'll tell you what else is you learn as you start meeting. You think everybody if you're not in the fire service and everybody looking from the outside of the fire service, the general public has this perception of the fire service, right? And whether they look at them as heroic, or they look at us as we're supposed to be those people because that's who they're calling when they need help. We got a class we do, and it doesn't even pertain to the fire service. They think it does, but what people don't realize is some people have the perception that they think that we're different than them. But the thing is in a way, some of us might be, but at the same time, we all have our struggles.
Right.
We all have our weaknesses. We all have our struggles. And when you can be relatable to somebody and you really start to get to know them, they have no idea what they're actually capable of. And the last couple of years, we've hired a lot of really young members at our fire department. And I've been asked, are you crazy? Hiring all these people, these young guys and girls are so green? I said, yes, sir, I'm absolutely crazy. I said, because at 18 years old, 19, 20 years old, when an 18-year-old kid walks up one day, just out of the blue, and he says, hey, what do I got to do to start hanging around here and learning about firefighting? You better grab him. You better hug him. You better tell him thank you, because he just gave you an opportunity to change his life. And he's still here today and hadn't left and didn't leave for 2 years and waited his chance to get hired. But we got several of them like that. And they don't have, and that's the thing with that, about the 4 rules: eating supper, eating together. Guess what? That is the time around the table is when people really start learning about each other. And you really learn today that society's nothing like it used to be. And life in general is not, but it doesn't mean that life in society is terrible. It's what we make out of it. But man, when you can take a young kid that comes from a broken home and he's never had any kind of figure in his life, he needs that. She needs that. And you're getting the opportunity to take and give them direction for the rest of their life. Right then. You might have them for a year. You might have them for 3 years, but if you can take and build their character right then and there, the chances are they'll never veer from it. They trust you and you never disappoint them. And if you do, you own up to it. You have to own up to it. Every time. Jim Moss said it, you have to own up to it when you do it, make it history, and take and move forward and erase it.
Love it. Dude, yeah, I could listen to that all day. Dude, that is powerful, man. That eat together, man, and making that impact. That is strong stuff. Jacob Johnson said, stop the bitching and start immersing yourself in the job and your rookies. You owe it to them to be your best. Citizens and rookies, two most important groups of people in your career. That's well said, Jacob. It really is. George Robertson Jr. said, you have to be invested in your guys and your students when you instruct. You can find something positive in what they are doing even when they suck at a skill. That positive reinforcement, even if it is on a small thing, will go a long ways to start building them up.
Right.
No, there's solid stuff. Solid stuff. All right, back to my notes here, getting back on track. Drew Elliott said, you can learn more about the job at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee than a conference with a certificate. There's a lot of truth to that statement right there.
Yeah, there is. Sure is.
And here we go. Jeremy chiming in. Leaders have to do true first culture. Leaders have to do everything they can to add value to others' lives every chance that they can. Do not miss an opportunity, man. You are not wrong. Take every chance you can take. I love this question. I've been asking it a lot lately on the scrap, and it's let's talk about if someone is in a department, on a shift, on a crew, whatever you want to put them, and their passion is being smothered, the culture is about embracing the minimum. What's your advice to that type of person? I know it's a tough question, I know, but go.
Yeah, it is, unless you like looking for it, because I do.
There you go.
I like the challenge of it, but I also like the opportunity you get to take and sit down and figure out what the hindrance is. We had this conversation this afternoon. You know what? If you're being held back, there's two reasons you're being held back. One is somebody's holding you back, and they feel intimidated by what you know or what you could be. But you got to have somebody that you can trust and go to. And I think that's part of our job as fire service members is if you see this happening within your department, or you got friends that this happens to, or you know people it's happening to, it's your job and your diligence to take and help them take and emerge from that. But you got to take and create it to where they want to take and make that situation with whoever's holding them back. And a lot of times that's, you have to divert from the fire service and go find out what's going on with who's holding them back, or why they're being held back. It might not be the fire service that's holding them back. It might be something that's going on in everyday life.
Right.
And if you don't know the people that you work with, if you don't create an environment to where everybody feels comfortable being some kind of vulnerable with each other at times, you don't know what's going on. When they walk through the door every day, you got to know each other. You owe it to yourself and to your crew to know if they come through that door that day, something ain't right. And if it ain't right and they're responsible for driving that truck, you better move your ass over and drive for them. And if they're not ready to talk about it, you let them know you're ready to listen and they'll come to you. But you can't take and ignore those things, because those things right there that are preventable, or it gives somebody an opportunity to open up and get things off their chest, or to tell you, because it could be something simple, or it could be something as severe as somebody fixing to lose their family.
Right.
And,
right.
But if you don't know that till that point, we're failing as a fire service, because we should know the people we work with well enough. And people disagree with me on this all the time, and that's okay. But we should know the people well enough that we work with, that when something's not right. And because life gets in the way.
Right. I would love to know who disagrees with you on that, because I would love to argue with them, because I think that is one of the keys to being if not the actual official company officer, and being a leader in the fire service, is forming those relationships and that trust with those people that you work with. So anyway, I don't think you're wrong at all. In fact, I'm the choir, you're preaching at me, and I'm loving it. So, but I do want to ask you this. You said there was two things that hold you back. Someone is holding you back, but you didn't get to number two. So I want to hear number two, because I'm really interested. I'm making notes here.
You're holding yourself back.
Okay, I figured it was going there, but I wanted to hear it.
You're holding yourself back because you don't have enough confidence. You don't have enough growth. You don't have enough support. And everything prior to that point, at that point, there's a reason for that. But that is our job, is to be able to see. You got to find that. That's what we were talking about earlier. I was talking to some of the guys. I said, man, it's our job to find out what we can do to be the absolute best. I said, it does not matter which house is on fire or where it's at. I said, I want to go. I want to be there. Yes. I want to be the first one there. I said, I'm not worried. I hope we train our guys good enough with the nozzles to be able to take and recognize where to start changing conditions. I want to be the first son that's coming in that house searching for somebody. I don't give a shit about being on the nozzle anymore unless I have to be. I want to be searching. I have a rule that how prepared can you be and how many what ifs can you take out before the actual bell comes in?
Nice on.
And mine is, so if you take out all the what ifs, right? If you take out what if this, what if that, what if you, if you sit down with your crew and your guys and you start talking about all the what ifs that you could take out, you'll be surprised on how much more efficient you could be.
Oh yeah.
And
I love that.
So it doesn't matter if it's a fire alarm, possible structure fire, or a confirmed structure fire. There's 15 kids and 25 adults in every structure we're going to. And that's a pretty bad day. I hope like hell it never happens, but guess what? In my mind, every time we're going to it, whether it's a fire alarm or not, that's there. And so the odds are that when we get there, as soon as we can get started and get to work, we can change that.
Nice.
Whether they're there or not. And if we can take and change that, that means the situation's going to get better. But they're there till we clear the structure, and they're not there every time. So it takes out that mentality of possible victims, possible entrapment. There's entrapment every time you clear it, and that's it. And you have to do that. But I had to do that and put myself in that mindset.
Right.
And when I got on the truck, it takes out so many different things that I have to worry or wonder about, because when I get off the truck, I got 4 responsibilities. And the sooner I can get them 4 responsibilities done, and how well my crew is, including myself, is trained and versed and together when we show up, I can get my 4 responsibilities done. I can get my ass in that house.
Right on, right on, dude. I love it. It's like Dave LeBlanc and Bill Carey, is a influence on him. But the expect fire, expect victims, and
right.
And like you're extrapolating that even further, saying expect 25 victims, expect fully.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love that mindset.
Yeah, that's we done a class for the first time in January. We wanted to say, man, let's start the year off right. Let's throw a live fire class together, and we called it "What's Your Plan?" And it came from a bunch of guys that I look up to, and I value their opinion. And we all had these same concepts. How can you make your basic structural fire class, control class better? And what are we seeing when you're actually going to these calls? And with today's fire service, well, everybody's is a little different. Well, ours is, like I said, it's very young, so I got tired of pulling up on scene and seeing young fire service members standing there and that terrible damn look in their face because they don't know what to do.
Right.
And
yeah.
We're failing them as a fire service in their training, and somebody's got to take responsibility for that shit. And so we said, all right, well, let's do this. Let's find out how many people will be courageous enough to come to a class that's called "What's Your Plan?" with not telling none of them about none of it, and exposing themselves and making them vulnerable. So what we did is we took and we put it out there. It was going to have, I think, 30, and we ended up with 56.
Wow.
I got a bad problem with telling people no. If you want to come train, we'll make it work. And so
that's a great problem, man. Probably not for you, but yeah.
But the thing is so we took one of the training facilities that we use. They're gracious enough to let us use it anytime we want to. We took a little bit different avenue and approach to it. As soon as we had our morning briefings, we took and set the building on fire, give them a fire engine, said, there you go. What are you going to do? And they all looked at us like, what? And like set the building on fire on the Division 1, Division 2, and had live victims in there and said, there you go.
There you go.
And I think 2 days, that was on a Thursday. On Friday, we had 56 students and run, I think, 32 scenarios.
Wow. That's amazing, man. That's awesome.
But again, it goes back to all these guys that's been commenting. We couldn't there's no way that level of training would happen. But it also takes people to say, oh shit, here I'm being put on the spot first right here. And you had big metro departments there. You had small rural departments there. We had a combination, and all of them exposed themselves to take and show.
I have a question for you on that. Was there leaders that stepped forward and said, I'm willing to go first and show my vulnerability? Did they set the tone?
There was 4 groups that stood up and said, yeah, we want to go. And the facility that we use is able to accommodate vertical ventilation as well. Nice. And so we didn't take nothing out. We left it. Told them everything's in play. It's theirs. We even let them load the hoses on the truck the way they wanted them.
Nice.
And So we give them all, and we put forcible entry doors on each side of the building. And it was by the, 2 days later, it wasn't the fact that people showed themselves vulnerables. How many times could they get reps and sets in to see how much better they could be and trying it different ways. So, and it was, but I think that's what we got to do in the fire service is, there's laws and different things that say we can and can't do this, but I'll be honest with you, if it happens right now, there ain't no damn law telling us what's going to happen or what we can or can't do. Because my thing is, if OSHA was so damn smart in 1983, it wouldn't have been 2 in, 2 out. It would have been 4 in, 4 out, or 5 in, 5 out. Maybe we wouldn't have staffing issues like we have today.
Right on.
So it's who dictates really what happens if you take and put the best instructors, and people can say, well, you safe it to death. Well, you have to be really safe in this scenario with these scenarios, but knock on wood, we've never had any injuries, and we continue advancing it. But that's also where it takes eventually you bring people together, like Build Your Culture, Rob Ramirez, Herbie Tyler, all these guys, Todd Shepard up in Ohio that's coming, Chris Kessinger, Arthur Ashley, all these guys, man, that's coming from Justin Fraze, Devin Craig, they're coming to do stuff like this because some say we're pushing the limits. I say we're taking and being as real and creating the realest scenarios and giving these students the best ability to take and understand what to expect when they get there.
That's awesome. Dude, and so many names you just mentioned that are just amazing. So I got a couple to throw at you. A lot of it's coming from back in what we were talking about. I feel when we only view each other as coworkers, we lose sight of how to coexist and actually invest in one another. Of course, that comes from Sean Duffy, Build Your Culture. So, of course, he's big on relationships. Tony Nunes says, definitely way too many coworkers these days, brother. Jacob Johnson said, if you build relationships, you will build culture. You will build the brotherhood. And that really is the key to building a culture, is to build those relationships. Man, that's well said, Jacob. Sean Duffy came back in, replying to Jacob, said, we have to learn that brotherhood and friendship are two very different things. And that's solid. Yeah, that's solid. Pablo, speaking of Pablo, he chimed in, Jenner, setting the expectations from day one. Don't expect to run a frat house and expect Firehouse results when it's time to cowboy up.
That's right.
So I might turn that one into a motivational post at some point. So I gotta save that one. Let me pin it so I can find it later. Garrett Toe says, will you be giving the What's Your Plan class again? That sounds like an awesome experience.
Yes, we will. We'll do it anytime, anywhere anybody wants to do it. It doesn't have to be in Georgia. If you want to do it and your department will allow it, we will come do it.
It's awesome. All right. I always like to ask, is there a book or books that you think firefighters should be reading?
Yeah, I think that's one thing you talked about in my earlier career. I sucked at reading. And it was the same with PowerPoint. If I have to be involved in a class of PowerPoint, it better be intriguing and you better capture me right off the bat.
Love it.
And that comes with the instructor too. So, but I also found that I did enjoy reading once I started finding things that I could relate to and understood. And I have to read over and over several times, but the one here lately, I start my day off every morning with leadership with John C. Maxwell, the little devotional. It's got the date. And I give those out. I bought them and give them out to everybody that works here on shift. And we encourage that for everybody to take and, read it together in the morning, because it's a good way to start the day.
Dude, I'm a huge Maxwell fan. So when you say that, I love that, man. I just want to come and chime in. So sorry.
That came from Chief Alberson, Steve Alberson. He gave me that several, I thought the date was in it, but it's not. I still got the book he gave me probably 4 years ago, and start over reading it every year.
That's awesome.
And guys I wanted to be like, man, somebody made the comment not too long ago. They said, it doesn't matter what people think of you. Well, you're terribly wrong. It does matter what people think of you. You can, and you can differentiate and think that it doesn't. It does matter what people think of you, because how people perceive you is one thing, but what they think of you means a lot. Because I don't want nobody telling my kids that I was a piece of shit and an asshole. I want telling my kids, yeah, your dad was. He might have been arrogant, but he was passionate and he cared about the fire service and he loved his kids, and that's what I want them telling us. So it does matter what people think about you. So But right now, what's big for me is Firefighter Success. We're actually using that in the promotional process.
Great book. Moss's book. Yeah. And if you only get one, I don't say this lightly. Like if you've never read a leadership book and you're just going to get one firefighter book, Firefighter Success is a great one to pick up, man, because it covers all the bases. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Chief Escusso, Step Up and Lead. Man, all the books. But I tell you one that's really got me. I had a guy tell me a couple months ago. He said, "Do you watch the news?" I said, "Man, I quit watching the news last May." I said, "I watch very little TV anymore." I said, "I listen to podcasts and I study the people in the fire service that I want to be like." And I said, "But why? Why do you ask?" And he said, "What do you always listen to the same thing?" I said, "Yeah, pretty much." He said, "You need to take a break from it." He said, "And listen to something else." I said, "Okay." And he told me, he said, you want something fast and high speed and to keep your attention, right? And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights."
Oh, wow.
And wow. And I was like, so that's what I listen to every day on the way to work. And now I'm on the second time listening to it.
Nice. Okay. I'll check that out then.
It's funny, man. It's hearing him talk and talk about his life, man. It's crazy, but it's fun. But it also gives me a real life aspect too. It's not just all come into work and it's fire service leadership, or it gives me a real life, approachable aspect to things other than just the fire service.
I'm asking for Dave. He asked, what was the name of the book again? The Maxwell book.
It's the Leadership Promises for Every Day. It's
there you go.
It's a little devotional book. It's got a date for every day in it. And it's got a devotional.
Nice.
So I think you can get them on Amazon. I think they're $7, $8, something like that. They're good books.
Perfect.
Those short daily devotionals. So, but Chief Thompson's book and Firefighter Success, I've really been studying them. That just how when he started at the colony and to what it is today, and how they went through and broke down every aspect of the colony, and how he buy-in from the community and the city. I could relate to that. And so I use a lot of that at times when we're talking about doing different things here and how to take and manipulate the people that are voted in, that they support you, but how do you take and relate to them to get them to understand?
Right.
And I revert to that a lot. I enjoy reading that one. I enjoy Firefighter Success, Jocko stuff. I like a little bit of everything. I'm starting to get a little bit more versed in it. And when I watch the different podcasts and listen to them, listening to some books, but I really tried to make myself start dedicating and finishing one before I start another one, because I was all over the place for a while.
I feel that, dude. I'm 100%. I started doing this. I started carrying this little notebook with these little tiny pins in it, and I could refill the notebook with these little tiny, almost like cop notebooks. But even the other day, we were doing critiques on a couple fires that we had, and I pulled out Chief Thompson's book because he has such a great checklist for when you do a critique, going over what you need to discuss on the critique, which is size up, apparatus placement, water supply, line selection, level of aggressiveness, problem solving, strategy, tactics, tasks, and techniques. And if you just go through those things when you do a critique on the job, man, it gave me a checklist to check. And so it's funny the small things you pick up from books that you wouldn't even think you're going to get something for size up out of a culture book. You know what I'm saying? But anyway.
Yeah, you're right. It's I don't know. I pick up more stuff than I realize, and that's why I have to go back and sticky note them to death and highlight them, and because I used to write it all down on a notepad, and I was like, man, I'm wasting my time. I'm just going to highlight the books and sticky note it to death, and and then it's a little bit easier for me to go back to and find and remember.
No, absolutely. I feel your pain and I feel like my brain is a leaky sponge, and I try to cram stuff into it and I lose half of it, or at least half of it. So anyway,
I'll tell you the first book that I really read and completed with the fire service was Chief Hobelman, before he was a chief. I think he was still battalion chief, but his book, and it was really easy to read. It wasn't really long. And,
no exceptions.
No exceptions.
Yes.
And I could relate to everything in there, from for his young age, starting in the volunteer company to where he was. But what that really was one of the books that kind of started structuring my mind of how I wanted to take and look at myself and perceive myself and others to think And, you know, that was kind of the model that I wanted to go by to start with. And I still, you know, I keep it in my backpack. It's still in my backpack today.
It's awesome. Awesome. Okay. Now, we have a thing on the scrap that we do every time, which is the 5 questions for firefighters. The answers are completely your opinion. I've already heard a couple of them by talking to you, so I know what a couple of them are going to be, but that's okay. The points are arbitrary, and I'm the one who passes out the points, but this is the 5 questions for firefighters. So, Shane Bentley, are you ready for the 5 questions for firefighters?
I'm ready.
All right, so here we go. Number 1. What is the number 1 issue facing the modern fire service?
Training and people. All right, so training and being able to take and be able to recognize the avenues. It's not just the skills that we can learn from training. It's the relationships we can build and potential that we can create in somebody else if they trust you.
Ooh, potential we can create in someone else if we can trust you. I love that, man. That is a perfect answer. Perfect answer. Thank you. Number 2, max points, by the way. What is the thing you are most excited about for the future of firefighting?
I'm excited right now. So goals was a big thing for me. I had to learn to set goals for myself that were attainable instead of way out there.
Okay.
And so, honestly, to see where I believe the fire service has changed more in the last 10 years than it has the last 50 years. And there's you can find good and bad in everything. So if we're choosing to look for the bad, we're on the wrong avenue, but there's always plenty of good to find. I'm excited about the friendship that I've made the last couple of years. And a lot of them is by simply trolling the internet and looking for not the underdogs, the small town guys, the guys that are passionate, they're doing the same thing, have the same, the Build Your Cultures, the Chris Kessingers, all these guys that we're linked up with now. And I've had a bunch of people ask me, they said, how did that happen? And there for a little while, I said, I don't even really know. But now my answer to that is it didn't happen on accident. There's a reason it happened. So I'm excited about, I take a lot of pride in being myself, being the person that creates opportunity for somebody. I love that. That's probably, I enjoy more about that than anything. And that's creating opportunity for somebody. And so I really look forward to who's coming next. I want to be able to create an opportunity for somebody to do this better than I ever could and not to ever get in their way. So I'm excited about what's coming for conference 3, 4, and 5 and where I get to go next to help who. And
that's powerful, brother. That's solid, man. I love when you said that the friendships is what you're excited about for the future, dude. I love that, man. Cause I don't think I've ever heard that answer in 74 scraps now. I've never heard that answer as the friendships I've made is what I'm excited about for the future. I love that. And the potential, anyway, sorry. I'm gushing on that. So number 3, I know the answer already because you already answered it. So we'll see if you're consistent. Best rank or position to be in the fire service?
Firefighter. I think that, I'll be honest with you. I'm fortunate to be in the position that I'm in now. I don't know how in the hell I got here, but it wasn't in the plan when I came up here, but I'm a firefighter, man. I'm a firefighter at heart. I struggle with being command because I even talked to my fire chief and city manager and they let me go back on shift. You know, I mean, I wasn't ready for 8 to 5 and, you know, I was able, they had allowed it to happen and I struggled at being anything but a firefighter. But at the same time, I have learned has all of the, everybody that I work with, as they trusted in me and taken and worked as hard as they have to become good at this job and this profession, I've learned that I really enjoy watching them go to work now.
That's awesome.
And being being that guy that thought I had to be the first one in there every time. Now I'm enjoying and making myself step back and watch them go to work. And it's hard, but I think firefighter is still the best job, but I think that if you have good leaders coming in, if you get the opportunity to lead firefighters and they trust you, it goes hand in hand.
Now I got to tell you, as you get excited, you get closer and closer to the phone and it's cutting you off. So I'm just telling you, cause I can't back it off anymore on my end. So,
all right. Sorry about that.
Then people just get to see your mouth moving a little. I'm just telling you so that it's no big deal. It's just the best I can do is so.
Is that good?
That's perfect. Best advice you have ever received?
uh, got a lot of it. Probably these, and I still got it on. It's an old sticky note from a good friend, mentor, Chief Swafford. He showed up one day in my office a couple years ago, and I was fit to be tied. And he come in, and how he got there, I had no idea. He just come walking in the station, and I looked at my fire chief and I said, "Did you call him?" And he said, "No, I didn't call him." And I said, "Well, how did he get here? How did he know that I was in the mind frame that I was in?" And he come in and shut the door and he said, "Sit down, son." He said, "Grab your note and write this down." He said, "Big elephants eat one small bite at a time." And I wrote it down and it's still stuck on my computer. That's the one that humbles me enough to take and listen to a lot of the other advice that people have given me. I've gotten a lot of great advice, but that one, and making sure that it doesn't matter how good or how passionate you are at this job, if when you get home you're failing there, you're not going to be, none of this is going to be as influential as if you can't do it at home. And that's the one you asked earlier that I still struggle with, and I'm doing better, but at the same time, that's the one that I still struggle with at times.
No, it's powerful. Dude,
Big elephant.
And right there, when you said that, I listened to Make Do's, the Make Do Suburban podcast today. Galliano was on there, and they were asking him, and he talked about, if you had a monstrously badass career, he spent 35 years in the fire service, and you retired and you went home to an empty house, what does it matter?
Right.
And that right there it was powerful. I was like, whoa. So that kind of reminded me of that right there. That was strong. Oh, yeah. Sorry. You get me going. Number 5, final question. You have heavy fire and searchable space. Would you rather be assigned, and I know the answer, to the nozzle or first in on VES?
First in on VES.
Yeah.
First in on VES. And I think that's, a lot of the fire service. So I've always kind of been, I talked about earlier, being a little arrogant about things. And so the whole debate of VES or VEIS or all those different analogies that's put to it, whether there's an I in it or not. So I took it upon myself to, instead of isolate, call it intimate, vent, enter, intimate search.
Nice.
And so we got to one of the guys that was mentioned something earlier before Christmas. I sent him a sticker that I'd made, and he said, "Let's make those a shirt for Christmas and raise a bunch of money for kids." I said, "Okay, cool." So we did it. Chief Johnson took and humbled me even more. He bought an ungodly amount of shirts, a lot of money. He spent a ton of money on these shirts and to make sure kids had Christmas. Wow. And so whether it's VES or VEIS, is still getting in there, knowing when to get in there, where to get in there as soon as possible. But that's where we fail as a fire service, is spending the time. So it doesn't matter how many, if you've been on 2 years or 15, or when you pull up, being able to see the conditions and know that we have to get in there and where we can get in there as soon as possible. And we have to spend as much as we have to. I think it's our diligence in the fire service to spend as much time talking about vent, enter, search or interior search and rescue as it is fire attack, and learning to recognize the signs. And I'll be a search guy from here on out. I want to be the first one there. I want to be the first one in your house. I want to be the first one in everybody's workforce house, and I want them to be the first one in my house because
nice.
I trust them. So it's BES every time.
Very strong, very strong. There it is. The 5 questions for firefighters, according to Shane Bentley. So nicely done, sir. Dude, it's been an awesome scrap, dude. I cannot believe how much I enjoyed. Because this is what blows me away every time and I don't say this like I can't believe how much I enjoyed it like an insult. I hope it didn't come across wrong. It's I don't know you, and this is the first time I've got to know you, and it has been a pleasure of a conversation. And I hope that it blows me away every time I have these conversations with passionate guys. I'm like,
yeah.
It's awesome. It blows me away. So I really do appreciate that. Best place to contact you, reach out for you, book a class or get in touch with you for the conference.
So you can go to bearsoftheoath.com, and it'll take you to our website, and it's got all the links on there for the conference coming up. It's March 11th through the 14th. It's got profiles of all of these guys that's commented that's going to be there that weekend, that week, and that weekend. It's got a listing of all the classes. It's there. I'll give out my email address is bearsoftheoath20@gmail.com. Phone number, anybody. I enjoy talking about the fire service. I enjoy when people want to take and train, and I'm fortunate enough to where we have a lot of means as far as equipment, sponsors and partners that will make sure that we never go without to do that. And it's all at there. If somebody wants to do it, we'll do anything we can to make it happen for them and help them.
It's awesome.
So, but it's Facebook. We're on Facebook, Shane Bentley, Bears of the Oath. So it's anybody's welcome. Anybody, and always welcome. Doors always open, and I'd love to take and be able to take and help anybody we can.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Oh, perfect, man. Okay, housekeeping on my end, which is coming up on the scrap. Let me find my dates on my whiteboard right here in front of me. Next week, Sean Donovan, then Jake Barnes, Dr. David Griffin, Jeremy Dunch, National Fire Radio, then Bill Carey, followed by Shannon Stone. Mixed in there, a few conferences that we're going to be at, and it's going to be crazy and fun. So a lot coming up on the scrap. I also, today I'm wearing no shirt. No shirts have been sent yet to be worn on the scrap, but I got a challenge coin sent in. This was from Jeremiah King out of Arizona. I'm going to try and show it up here. It's a beautiful coin. It is Central Arizona Pipes and Drums on one side, and the flip side of the coin is Central Arizona Honor Guard. Tons of symbolism on this coin with the Irish harp, the clovers that represent the 19 firefighters that perished, and the one that survived is on top. They talked a lot about all of the symbolism on this coin. They have honor the fallen, honor the flag, and then, of course, in Gaelic on the other side, they have deeds, not words. It's a beautiful coin. So much, Jeremiah King. Thanks for sending it in. If you want me to feature a coin on the scrap, send it in to me. Let me know. If you want me to wear a shirt on the scrap, send it in to me. Let me know. I'm working on a conference here in Oklahoma. It is entirely a benefit conference. There's been so much support for it because 100% of what we make on the conference is going to the Waynoka firefighters that died doing that search in January. Those line of duty deaths. And so 100% of it right now is coming together. We're aiming for June 11th, 12th, and 13th. And I will give out more details as we get more details solidified. The support for it so far has been amazing. So that's all the housekeeping on that end. Shane Bentley, it has been a wonderful conversation with you, sir.
Thank you. Man, again, I appreciate the opportunity. It's an honor to be on your show, man. And I thank you guys for listening, and thank you for the comments. This is the absolute best job in the world with the best people in it. And that's what we got to do is continue to support each other.
100%, man. Could not say it better. I do have to say this. I'm gonna have to go to bi-weekly scrap soon because I gotta get Rob Ramirez in here, Nick Prepard. I'm almost regretting saying this out loud. I gotta get Devin Craig in here as a guest on the scrap, and so I gotta be careful saying that out loud. But it's going to be awesome when I do. So I've got those people to reach out to, but I really have to I need more time in the week to get as many people as need to be on here. So
yes,
it's
there's a ton of people out there, man. That's word
yeah, it blows me away. So anyway, everybody, thank you guys for the comments, the questions. You guys are truly what makes the scrap so fun and enjoyable. Of course, the unbelievably good guests. I hope the tone stays silent unless it's burning. Stay safe out there.
Thank you.